We can't stress how excited this man is for this episode.
Ignoring that stupid. It came at the absolutely perfect time.
No way is that happening in my establishment. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Setlist podcast with me, Riley, and Charles. Today, Charles is very excited for this one because we're doing the Stone Roses debut album.
At last.
Now, it's not my forte. It's not my area of expertise, but it is this man's. And so he's going to bring you all the info, and I'm going to sit here and play the dumb peasant, let's call it.
Yeah, we'll go with that one. That's quite polite, I think. No, you know a bit about the band. Like you're not that naive to it.
I'm not
you know
out of tune to it, but
you know John Squire and
yeah. I will say
a few of the songs.
I will say I'm not as locked into the history as you. Before we start, it is worth mentioning, just because we have to address it from last episode. Really, is that we can't stress how excited this man is for this episode because he put it to a vote of this album against Rumours by Fleetwood Mac, which was our last episode, which you should totally go and watch if you haven't. And Rumours won, and he was so fuming. He kept bringing it up in the last episode.
I genuinely thought this was going to win.
He was absolutely nailed on for it. He didn't know our audience, but I did, which is why Rumours won.
Yeah. It's just you guys just aren't good enough. Like you should. I mean, we had to do Rumours eventually, anyway.
Yeah,
we had
too
to do
true.
this eventually. All right. Well, we'll start with a brief history. So it started as a band called The Patrol.
Okay.
With John Squire and Ian Brown. They started it. They knew each other at school, so it was one of those like school bands. You know what I mean?
That's sick.
Yeah. So they started, and then eventually they got Manny in and Ranny the drummer. So Manny's the bassist and Ranny's the drummer.
Okay.
And they formed, did I say it was in 1983, which was a lot earlier than I thought.
Yeah.
I only found that out yesterday when I was like having like a proper little look.
To be fair, I never really knew where they fitted into it. I knew they were pre-Oasis.
Yeah.
But not sure by how much. They're one of those weird ones that you could probably place in like 3 decades of music.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I do think they could fit in, well, the 70s, 80s and 90s, like you just said. I think like late 70s, I reckon they could have had a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if they're old enough, but
very true.
ignoring that stupid joke. Yeah, they were like a punk influence band before they sort of went into that like what is now called the Manchester scene.
I love that.
But obviously, that wasn't like it was a thing, but it's more like synonymous now with the era.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because it's kind of died out, like Manchester. It's really sad because it's Manchester was like, it marks a whole like generation of people, and it's like that was the party. That was where the party is, and it defined all this music and stuff. And now when you look at Manchester, you're just full of like, I wouldn't say it's wiped the history out of this, but I would say that it's brushed over that whole like the sort of face appearance of it, and it's now more like your drum and bass and your dance stuff, which again, it could just be a new genre defining itself in the UK's most famous musical city.
I think like Manchester, the same with Britpop, and I'm not saying that this is Britpop before anyone comes at me in the comments of any TikToks or anything. It came at the absolutely perfect time. Like those two like genres and eras, they came at like the perfect time. Like everything was going like somewhat well, I suppose, like with people were obviously, there was a lot of struggles. It was like post sort of Thatcher, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of time. So I think people were a bit happy that she was gone. But it just fits, like, like Oasis come after, and they're influenced by the Stone Roses, and then Oasis have influenced loads of bands, like the Arctic Monkeys we did on our first episode.
It's like a perfect jigsaw of music, really, isn't
like,
it?
When you actually do like the timeline of it, they all slot perfectly, and that's, I suppose, what you were saying. I can't really see how the current scene fits in that puzzle.
Yeah, where did it come from? I think the only explanation is that scene died, and it's kind of like we said for Arctic Monkeys. That scene fizzled out almost with them because, you know, people can't afford to go out and do what they did, like, pre-2000s.
But then people couldn't... I think this is something... I mean, I don't think we got it wrong when we were talking about Arctic Monkeys, but people couldn't really afford it then.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
I think the disparity in prices of things is a lot greater now than it was back then. So if people couldn't have afforded things back then, they weren't... The relativity to what they had wasn't actually such a big of a gap compared to what I think it is like now.
Yeah, I think you also have to look at those people grew up and started managing the clubs and pubs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were like, no way is that happening in my establishment. So they just lock down the security, the surveillance goes up, that sort of thing.
I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with stopping people doing drugs.
No, but it's probably a good thing in terms of public health.
It is a good thing, but it's just one of those things. Like, but when we were talking about what I was talking about then, like the puzzle of like the sort of like drum and bass, like warehouse. That's what this album sort of was with at the time. Yeah, this is quite a psychedelic sort of album in a sense of the word. It's quite dancey, again with the bass and stuff. I know you love bass. Yeah, I'm a big fan. And that was their like unique selling point, I think, when they were getting signed.
I mean, music has never really been cyclical. No, but I think there's maybe a point to argue with the fact that, like you say, these guys were in with all of that, like a bit more dancey, a bit more like oosh, oosh sort of stuff for its time. That's kind of died away. We're seeing a resurgence of the dancey stuff. What's to say that there isn't another sort of Stone Roses revolution around the corner? And we do see like the first sort of big cycle in music.
I'll give him credit. I'll give him credit where credit's due. Something my dad's always said is that like there's like a time period where you have like a drought of like a big band. Yeah. And then they just like come out of nowhere at like the perfect time. Like these lot came out in the perfect time. Oasis came out at the perfect time. But I can't see any event happening again that led to the Stone Roses, that led to Oasis, that led to I can't see anything like that happening in like the near future.
Maybe society's not prepped for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not enough people who can really get behind. Because I'm sure there are artists out there who would be like, who are good enough to be this next Stone Roses, this next Oasis. But there's not the social rallying, right?
There's like, I mean, you see it on TikTok sometimes. I saw this band on TikTok the other day, and I put their song right into my playlist on Spotify. Yeah, this like Australian like progressive rock band. But like to get your name out there, especially in Australia, like, and then over into the rest of the world, it is hard. But I think that's the difference between how like music's promoted now. A lot of it is social media.
Yeah, let's talk about TikTok actually for a second, because that has probably been one of the biggest influences of music, like in the last 10 years, maybe you could say. Because now you have so many one-hit wonders, and not because the rest of their music's bad, just because one of their songs gets hundreds of thousands of millions
people make
of views.
Videos about it. Yeah, I think social media has kind of killed music to a degree where, because you can just pump out content, that I've seen bands on TikTok and they tease this single, their debut single, for months.
Yeah, to pump out the content,
and months and months, and they're waiting until they post that one video, which gets like 500,000 views, like 100,000 likes, to then press the button and release it. Yeah, because they want to release it at the height of their like viewership. Yeah, and I don't know. I just think when you do music, I think you should be doing it for the love of the music and not. Yeah,
that's where it comes from, right? That's where success comes from. It's people like the Stone Roses. Like like it's artistic, right? They put their absolute creative art like passion into it, and they did that to the absolute maximum extent, and that is why that is like the big success for them. It's creative, it's flowy, it jumps, it has all of that sort of thing, but it's not done like on a whim. It's really thought out.
And I mean, this is a creative album. Like, I mean, looking at the looking at the album cover, John Squire designed that. Right, so he put his effort into it. It's inspired by an artist called Jackson Pollock, an abstract expressionist. And it's like they're very similar, but I think when you look at some artists, they don't put enough of their soul into what they do a lot of the time. Whereas I think something like this, like he's designed the album cover, he plays obviously the guitar, and he puts his like absolute like heart into it. And I think there's some bands that they don't give enough for their art, because that's what it is. It's an art. It's not just music, in my opinion. So I don't know. It's one of them, isn't it? Like you really need to like feel something when you make music.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of feels like that's what the point of music is.
And and I think, like we were just saying, TikTok's killed that, I think.
I think, where do you think like the Stone Roses would be if that like the TikTok and the Instagram, like what you're saying,
if they came out now,
this culture like now? I mean, let's imagine. Obviously, we're in like the Manchester scene. That's still going on, but you have these social medias and stuff. What happens to them? Do you think they're one of those bands that tease it for months and then wait for that peak audience, or do you think they just let it run?
So you're saying if they had TikTok in like the mid '80s?
Yeah, if they had that, like, you know, the opportunity to do what you're talking about,
right? That's a hard question, that.
Yeah,
because it's really hard. That's a really
Shall I tell you what I think?
Horrible question.
Shall I tell you what I think? I think these guys are they're in it for the music. They're not in it, and they're in it for the creativity. They're not in it for the like all the hype, and they're not in it to be. They don't want to hit the very top. They don't really care. From what I can gather,
it's one of them, I think
it's just they want to be creative. So if social media is around in those days, and if they have the opportunity to throw on a song on TikTok and like it does 1 million views, and then they base an album around it, I don't think they ever do that. In fact, I don't think they really get too near it. In my opinion, the Stone Roses just put their albums out, or they've just put their debut out.
Yeah.
And they do it anyway. It doesn't matter, and it would still bang, wouldn't it? It would have still done the numbers.
So yeah, if you just keep the album exactly the same, you listen to an album for the first time. The first time you listen to an album, you listen to it through, and you're like, right, okay, I kind of get the premise of this album.
Yeah.
And then you listen to it again and again and again and again. I do agree with you. I think they just dropped the album and just put it out.
Yeah.
I think there would be an element.
Yeah.
I think there would be an element to it, because I think, as much as I'm like sort of giving it a bit of grief, I think you'd be an idiot not doing that.
Well, it's the easiest way to market yourself, isn't it?
It's a free tool. Like you might as well.
Yeah.
So
you
I'm
don't
not
have to pay
having
for
a
the
go at
billboards.
these people for doing this, but I just think they don't need to do it so like aggressively, in the sense that like they're waiting for that big hit to drop their hit. Like I don't know, just release your music. You want, the reason you wanted to record your music is because you enjoyed making it. You wrote the words, so they mean something to you. Even if you say they don't, they mean something to you. So just release it and sort that out afterwards. I know it's not cheap releasing music, but you're going to want to release music anyway, and I think you'd regret not just putting it out there.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, that's a message to all the aspiring artists of today, right? Do it properly.
Release it, and by all means put it on TikTok, but just release the songs.
Yeah, remember what you are. You're not, as much as at some point social media makes you 10 times more than the revenue from your streams. I think what you have to think about is what actually are you? Are you going to be a social media band? Because they're things now, you know? You get bands that play live gigs on TikTok, not for crowds, and they earn just as much money as if they played to 200, 300 people.
I think, and then just obviously go back to the album cover. It was Jackson Pollock and the lemons on there, which I think is synonymous with the Stone Roses.
Yeah, so legendary. Where I'm not an expert, so we've got the art and stuff off the cover.
Yeah.
The art inspo for that. Where do lemons fit into a band that were in a scene in Manchester where everyone just partied all the time?
So, I mean, other than the fact they actually just kind of look cool.
They are
cool. They just somehow fit. They're actually inspired by students in Paris who were protesting, and they used the lemon juice, to block the tear gas.
That is brilliant.
And I think that works as well with the time they came out.
Yeah.
Because everyone was like going like, and they've brought out lemons on their cover as a tribute to those people who were in a similar sort of situation with like police and all that.
It's
to
really
block the police.
It's really like targeted, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like you can so tell that they've looked at this and gone, that is like what we want to be the soundtrack to. We don't want to be the soundtrack to tea parties and picnics. Let's go and be the soundtrack to riots. So get some lemons on that front cover.
And again, I think we do keep going back to TikTok, but it has to be said, that whole like keeping it lemon trend, where you see like young lads and young girls wearing like their like specials and bucket hats and stuff, but they'd be listening to Oasis on it. Now, I'm not trying to be one of those people, but I'm going to be one of those people. I don't know if they knew that could have some sort of correlation, because that was the first thing I thought when I saw. And I don't know if it really does, but that was the first thing that came into my head when I first saw someone say, "Oh, keep it lemon."
It would make sense, wouldn't it?
And if they had said it wearing something else,
Yeah.
I'd have gone like, "Oh, they're just, I guess, keep it like, I don't know, chill or something." But because they were wearing the bucket hats, the jeans, their Adidas.
Yeah, you make a good point there.
That was the first thing that my mind snapped to.
Well, where else? I mean, I can't think of a single other occasion that would link that well, that has lemons in it. They're such an obscure thing.
It's just like, why? Like, I know when like people, you can call someone they're being a bit lemon, they're being sour, but that has nothing to do with that keeping it lemon whole. Like, I mean, I personally hate that phrase because I think it's horrible, but it has to have some relation to
It
that
must
album.
do. I mean,
has to.
the only argument would be that I can think of to it is like if it was limes, you could say it's a tequila and lime. Do you know what I mean? That's literally like the only thing, but it's not. It's a lemon, which has like the least correlation. Possible, really.
That's going to have nothing to do with any sort of food choice.
No.
Like it has to be to do with that.
Yeah, no one likes lemons. Do you know? No one
like,
eats raw lemons.
If someone could tell me, because I did try and look it up like before when it was a big thing, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't understand where it's come from.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's ask the viewers because they are hell of a knowledgeable. We have got a very smart fan base who correct us quite regularly. So if we're wrong, we'll chop a clip on TikTok. If we're wrong, let us know. But we think that the Stone Roses Lemons on the album cover correlates to the footballing, hooligan-y, bucket hat wearing craze on TikTok of keep it lemon. So you let us know if we're right or wrong.
It has to be right. But if it isn't, I'm well open.
Yeah, I'm just interested more now.
For more information on that. Because
totally.
I just don't understand it still.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about the album itself.
Well, I think the start of it is just brilliant. The slow build-up in I Want to Be Adored, it's very like that sort of sound. I don't know if you could pick that up, but it goes up and up and up and up until it finally hits its like level.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a better way to start an album than going from quiet up to up to it.
It's so cinema,
It's
isn't
such
it?
a good build. It is. It's actually quite a cinematic beginning to an album.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, I know you're not a massive Stone Roses fan, but what would you say is your favourite?
Yeah, so as little as I do know about them, I do have a favourite song, and a song that drew me to them, which is why it's my favourite. And it's Fool's Gold.
All right, okay.
Right, which people can hate or love. I mean, I can probably like expect they would have like some better songs that I'd probably enjoy more, but I just haven't listened to them that much. This song is very important to me for the main reason of it was in FIFA Street. It was a remixed on FIFA Street, the bass line, by I want to say Lethal Bizzle. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if it is, but I want to say Lethal Bizzle. It was that sort of style of music anyway. And it was like the soundtrack to me playing FIFA Street, and I love that game. That was like my whole upbringing, was just sitting there playing FIFA Street.
No, I know we had a little bit of a chat before this. I've never heard that version.
No, I mean, without FIFA Street, it's very niche. Did you play FIFA Street?
No.
Oh my god! Right, you've missed out on a whole chapter of childhood.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if I'm the odd outlier here or you are, but if you had FIFA Street, drop it in the comments. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about by the remix of this song, because it's I wouldn't say it's generational, but it's like,
maybe it's generational for you though.
yeah, it changed my music listening. Like, it was the first time I'd heard like that bass line, and I was like, damn, what is that instrument? I love that. And that was what got me really actually thinking about, hang on, music isn't just like sounds, it's like actually somebody's doing that.
I mean, I can kind of imagine what that sounds like, that version.
Yeah.
I can imagine it in my head, and I can understand why that would probably have such like a choke on you for why that's your like favorite one.
Yeah.
Because obviously like the childhood and all. For me, my favorite Stone Roses song, which isn't actually on this album, is Love Spreads, which is on the Second Coming.
Okay.
If you know, you know, right? And it's not a low down song at all. Like it's a very popular one, I think. Anyway, it's so good and it's so different to this. But that whole album's completely different. We'll have to do an episode on that at some point.
Not enough.
We have to do another one. Yeah, we have to.
Get ready for the poll, guys. You know not to vote for it.
I'm just going to put the Second Coming against the Second Coming. How about that? And you have no choice. One thing we haven't actually mentioned is their massive gig they did in Spike Island. Right.
Tell me a little bit.
So, they wanted to put on like a career-defining show.
Who doesn't?
Obviously. They were like getting like, their fan base was going like up and up and up and up. So they were like, well, we've got to like do something.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that there were a lot of issues at that event. A lot with like sound, like the sound engineering. It just wasn't very good. Like, but people call it like one of the most important like gigs in British music history.
That is a big label.
And it's a bold statement, considering there was like 30,000 people there. And you look at other gigs, and like all the different bands that have played Nebworth.
Yeah.
And that's over 100,000 people.
Yeah.
In a fielded area.
Yeah.
It's a bold statement. And they did a film, like, sort of adaptation. I think it was 2017 they did that. And it's about these young lads, and I think, like, this girl or something, and they're trying to get to Spike Island, the, like, place. It's like a wasteland. It was a wasteland area. Like, I think it was just outside Manchester.
Okay.
And they try and do that, and it's the whole, like, romanticising, like, music and going to this event. But that was... I mean, obviously the show, everyone was like hyping it up, and the show wasn't that good, but people still call it like one of the greatest. And I think you have to be some band to still be able to hold that sort of like chokehold,
yeah,
on something
when it wasn't the
when it
best
wasn't
show
that
ever.
good. I mean, I've just got like some notes here. People called it like a spiritual, once in a lifetime experience.
Okay.
You think of the time that they did that,
Yeah.
right? I think maybe it was spiritual because, you know, they were actually just off their heads. But the environment does help, I suppose, with stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they played Fool's Gold at that.
Boom.
You
Should have
know,
been there.
We know it's your favourite.
As Lethal Bizzle.
Going back to what we were talking about, it captures like the late 80s, early 90s rave culture, which is what we're in now. So I'm hoping, I am like holding out for someone to properly come out there and just cut through that and bring out a new band.
Yeah, we need it, right? This is when we could do with it. It's like you said, we can expect a drought for a little bit, but
Yeah, you can't have it all.
I mean,
You can.
it's like the Sahara Desert out here sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
we're struggling. Someone needs to come and break this like social media artist mold a little bit and just show us something.
I mean, you can't do it anymore. But we've said enough about that.
We have.
I just sound like an old man, like going like, oh, these social media.
We do.
stuff.
We sound really old recording this podcast. Like we're like 20, 21 years old, and we sound ridiculously old when we talk about it. So, back in the good old days.
But it was back in the good old days, and I wasn't
Yeah,
even
it's true.
alive.
It's true. It's true. I mean, it's like a bit like with that Stone Roses performance. We weren't there, but we still know it's legendary. You know, we weren't even born yet.
I mean, you know, they don't make films about things for no reason. And
That's very true.
And it's not a documentary. It's like
Proper film.
a proper film.
That's cool.
A story of how they get out there.
I like that.
So, you know, it obviously had that much of an effect.
Yeah. Right, so now it's time for an ultimate showdown, a classical showdown. We're doing the Strat.
Versus the telly.
Now, I think we're going to differ on opinion on this quite a lot, but I'm going to go with the Strat without a doubt. I don't think it's even close. I've played both. I have both. And for me, the sound you can get on that thing, the range feels a little bit better to me. It plays smoother for me. I love the shape. The shape is so cool.
It is classic.
And
it is
the
classic
people who
design.
play that as well, I'm very influenced by like Mark Knopfler.
Yeah,
So him on that, I mean, Mark Knopfler could not have played a telly like that.
I don't know about
Wouldn't
that.
have worked.
I don't know about that. I've got both. My first one was a Strat, and I had that for a few years. And like, don't get me wrong, it's a very versatile guitar. But I find that when I've got my telly on the bridge,
Okay.
the bottom setting, the tone I can get out of that on my amp, and it's
To make it work.
and it's a Squire as well.
Yeah.
I know, like, both my guitars are Squire because I'm not made of money, but I don't know. I just feel like the sound I can get out of that just is so much better than my Strat.
So if we're talking genres, I mean, the way that I'd put it is the Strat is good at everything and
It is
pretty damn good at some things.
It's a very versatile guitar. I'll give it that.
And I'd say the telly it's not good at everything, but the things it is good at, it's hell of a good at.
Yeah. I think that puts it. I think that's about right, to be honest, because there are some things you can't do on a telly that you need a Strat for.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't play Comfortably Numb on a Telecaster. You have to play it on a Stratocaster.
Yeah,
and I
true.
know it's a bit pretentious. Like, oh, well, you might play Oasis on your Strat, and they played this on a Les Paul. But I just feel like certain things you have to have, like the bridge pickup on your one there.
Yeah.
You've got like the two. I don't know what that's called. Is it like
Two.
the two? Someone will tell us what that's called. Like just the tone you can get out of it is a lot better But like we said, what that like misses out on versatility makes up for it in those like individual moments.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure Prince plays a telly on his While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
He does
solo,
and that is the best. That is, in my opinion.
In my opinion, it is the
it's
best.
top 5 in it at least.
We'll give it. It's the best adaptation of a solo. It's top 5. It is top 5. It's top 5 in my books, and that's played on.
That's very true.
But then, like I said, Comfortably Numb's played on the Strat.
Yeah,
and that's in my top 5 as well. So I don't know. I don't know if you've changed my mind a little bit.
Well, if I haven't, I'm getting some reinforcements in. Hopefully, I'm not an outlier here, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" But come on, the more legendary guitars, in my opinion, are all of them bad boys. I think it's a no-brainer.
I mean, I think we all know the best guitar is the Jazzmaster.
Yeah.
But,
well, we couldn't include that because it'd have been a whitewash, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's just my opinion, obviously. I'm sure there'll be someone who disagrees, and I would actually like to hear that.
Yeah, we would like to know your opinions. I think it's probably best if we get some.
If we get some opinions in, because everyone is going to have their own reasoning behind why they like their guitar.
Yeah.
I love my Strat because that was my first electric guitar. So obviously I'm going to have a special place for it.
Yeah, always,
because it was my first one.
Maybe that's a bias then. Maybe
there might be a bias.
Yeah, maybe that's where the general bias comes from. It's everyone's first guitar. Most people's.
Yeah.
Everyone's sensibles.
Everyone's sensible.
Yeah, everyone's sensible gets a Squire as their first guitar.
Just get a Gibson Les Paul.
Yeah, why
guitar.
not? Why not?
Yeah, sound.
I'll tell you what. Let's put a poll on the Instagram. The Instagram will be in the description of this video. We'll put a poll up and we'll see what everyone thinks. And maybe we'll come back and reevaluate it on the next episode.
I think, we'll come back next... Well, 2 weeks, isn't it? We're bi-weekly.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the next episode and we'll let you know the results. And...
see what the people think.
I'll tell you if I agree with it or not, which is probably not... I'm probably not going to.
Judge, jury and executioner over it.
Well, the poll never goes my way, so...
No, it's true. They do hate you.
They do hate me.
That wraps us up for today. Thank you very much for listening. We've been the Setlist Podcast. As per usual, get down in the description, follow some socials, go have an interaction on TikTok. We got a lot of stuff going up on TikTok and Instagram at the moment, a lot of reels. Charles is doing a lot of great stuff on the Instagram.
And obviously, make sure you vote on this poll.
Yeah, we need to know.
We need to know the definitive answer.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, thank you very much. Charles, have you got anything to say before we cut off?
I'm just glad we finally got to do the Stone Roses, to be honest.
Yeah, thank God it's out the way. Can we do something good next week? No, I'm joking. I'm about to get laid out. That's getting clipped, isn't it? That's getting clipped. All right, thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care. We've been the Setlist. Goodbye.